the Supreme Court, and there's still reason to believe that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is in jeopardy because Kavanaugh has supposedly back-channel signaled through like Leonard Leo that there's opportunity to attack the provision of the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, which basically says that districts in areas where you have a certain percentage of minority voters, there needs to be districts that have a majority of minority voters so that there is there's proper representation. It is a sort of ham-fisted way of making sure that a white majority does not redistrict in such a way that creates a barrier to non-white representation. So, for instance, in Alabama, you have almost 30% of the state is black. But somehow, out of 7 congressional districts, there's only a majority of black people in 1.
Huh.
And, you know, it's just clear, obvious gerrymandering, right? I mean, you're talking about like there's almost like their electoral strength is cut in half, essentially. And Alabama Republicans made a map, went to the Supreme Court after going through the circuit court, and the Supreme Court said, like, we have a thing called the Voting Rights Act. We have really eviscerated as much as we possibly can, made it as...
While still maintaining our kind of veneer of impartiality. So we can't go that far, Alabama. We're trying.
The late, great Antonin Scalia had basically said that the only reason why the Voting Rights Act had been reauthorized years before, this is in 2013 when they were eviscerating Section 5, I think it was because senators were too afraid of being considered racist. Racism is basically all but over. We don't have to worry about this. They got rid of the pre-clearance provision where certain states that had a history in certain districts, I mean, also in New York actually had a couple of districts as well, New York State, a history of racial discrimination when it comes to voting, had to get permission from the Department of Justice to change their voting laws, as opposed to the opposite, where they change it and then the DOJ has to come after them. They've weakened that ability of the DOJ as well. In this one instance, they said to Alabama Republicans, no, you have 30% almost black population. You need to have 2 districts out of your 7 to reflect their strength in your state. And Republicans said, okay. They went back home and they said, actually, we changed our mind. We're going to just present another map with just 1 district that is a so-called, a majority black district. And it went up the chain again. Federal court said, no, you've already been instructed by the Supreme Court. They brought it to the Supreme Court. And today, I guess this morning, this is the second time in 3 months, like I say, the Supreme Court rejected Alabama Republicans' new map. I think it was more of like a shadow docket. There was no noted dissenting votes. The court did not explain its reasoning. I mean, it's fairly obvious.
They don't need to explain their
reasoning. Go see our last ruling 3 months ago.
And by the way, that last ruling was 5-4. Roberts joined the 3 liberals, and then Kavanaugh did, and wrote a concurrence and basically said, don't worry, Republican states. This is not necessarily a full precedent for Section 2 of the VRA. We will look at this more on a case-by-case basis. Like, he gave other Republican states a roadmap to continue to discriminate. They just said this was so egregious. Alabama has the 5th largest black population in the country, and you have 1 majority black district. And the thing that is just what I find slightly entertaining about the story too is, like, the court is as far right wing as it can be, really. But the thing that they will not stand for is having their authority as high priests of the United States be defied in this manner. They are ruling right in this instance, but they're like, they're incredibly ideological, but they're not going to stand for their authority being completely challenged in this way by an overeager far-right state legislature.
There's two things. They can't afford to have their decisions be completely flagrantly ignored. But also, this is so egregious that they cannot, that it's too ostentatious. They need something that's a little bit like, instead of like 30%, yes. Let's give us an edge case, not one that goes way over the line, please. That's what they're looking for. This is, and we've talked about this many times on this program, they build their way bit by bit to tearing down these things. And this is the last vestige of the Voting Rights Act that they're going to go after, I think, and we'll see.